good, beer is good, beer is good, and stuff.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this episode of The Beer Chasers. Preston, we're joined by Mike from At The Bar Podcast. Mike, how's it going?
Good.
And we're here today at St. Summer Brewery with owner and brewer Bob Sylvester. Bob, how's it going?
Good. Welcome.
Thank you. So today we're going to talk with Bob here about St. Summer Brewery, how he got started, how he got into brewing, taste some of his beers. Gentlemen, ready to go?
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Yep, drink some beer. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. Bob, tell us how you got started in brewing.
Years ago, in the dark ages, my wife bought me a Mr. Beer kit for Christmas one year. This was 1990 something. So,
Okay. So before like the
Wasn't-
real craft beer boom, but
yeah, it
before
wasn't huge, and I fell in head first. I loved making the beer. Fortunately, even then, in Tampa, we had the Brew Shack on Waters, which was owned by Tampa Bay Brewing Company, and they sold homebrew supplies. So I found out about that, and then that consumed most of my life from there on.
So from there you jumped kind of like into all grain. You went from kind of the 2-gallon Mr. Beer up to 5 gallons. And...
Yeah, pretty quick. I started doing some other extract batches because that's what you're doing with Mr. Beer, and added back 1 ounce of hop pellets. And,
I got a second thing of booster.
Yeah. And then did partial mash, and that kind of partial mash on the stove with several hop additions is what really boosted me out of the house because Anna and the girls just could not handle the smell of hops and boil.
Sure, yeah.
So I'm like, well, I can do this outside, but I'll need some other equipment and do all grain, so whatever. Just get it the hell out of the kitchen.
We'll forgo a couple car repairs.
Yeah. So slowly, and I love building and tinkering with stuff myself. So I bought parts and pieces and put everything together myself.
Yeah.
And ended up with a 5-gallon all grain system.
Nice. At the time you were homebrewing, were you a craft beer fan in general? Like, were you already into craft beer, or did brewing kind of get you more into craft beer? Like, how did that kind of work for you?
Craft beer in Florida was almost non-existent then. I was still a fan. There was the original World of Beer was about the only place you could get any kind of craft beer on 60 in Clearwater. And prior to this, actually, like in the mid-'80s, I used to work at Clearwater Mall, so I would drive by there every day and pick up a beer on the way home. And because of the container size law, everything had to be 12-ounce, 32-ounce.
128 or whatever.
Yeah, or a gallon or more.
There's so much beer in here that you won't be able to finish it before it goes bad.
Yeah. So, they carried, Anchor and Sierra Nevada was just, coming into the state.
Back then, that was a hoppy beer. 30 years. That was blowing your taste buds out.
Samuel Smith. They got, some other British beer because they weren't really metric. They were ounces, so you can get some of that. Every once in a while, I think they would, by mistake, get in some 500 milliliter bottles of Spaten and some of the better German stuff.
Nice, yeah.
So that kind of kept me going. I was a big Bass Ale fan in those days. Bass Ale was still a good beer. It was still brewed on the Burton Union system.
Right.
It still came out of England. Now I think it's comes out of Canada. Or something.
Right.
So that was one of my go-to beers that you can get in a grocery store. That was still a really good beer.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the container size law changed, and I was really ready for that because I was already brewing some Belgian double knockoffs and did an imperial stout here and there and some other stuff. And as soon as those hit, I was like the day they were released, the day that the law changed.
Yeah.
I was at Grand Cru Wine Cellars Dale Mabry, just waiting for the trucks to come to get
Throwing your wallet out.
champagne. I mean, they got in Cantillon that just sat on the shelf a year after that.
Oh.
Yeah, you get a $7.50 Cantillon for $13. And at that time, I'm like, who the hell's going to pay $13? This is insane.
Right.
That's such a huge amount of money.
Fast forward today, $35 pastry stout.
Yeah.
Later. So I'd like to segue if I can into that. So you talk about brewing some doubles and some Russian Imperials, but kind of today, what you're known for is kind of like farmhouse style saison. So how did you get into kind of brewing that and brewing some of that almost exclusively now that we're here at St. Somewhere?
Early on, I got tired of working off of recipes, let's say. I'm deep down, I'm kind of a frustrated chef. I do all the cooking at home. I love cooking. Not from recipes, just,
Trying to throw that, yeah.
So Belgian brewing lent itself more to that than anything else. So then I even got deeper into, Belgian brewing, which would be, the more rustic stuff, everything in my life, I have to narrow it down to, its purest essence. I'm not happy with, here's the big pool. I want,
Yeah, and I like that there's people out there that do that,
Yeah.
because keep some of those styles alive that you might not see on the market.
I'm a pain in the ass traditionalist, in a lot of ways. And that's what just led me to focus on saison and beer de garde.
Yeah. I mean, that says something about your recipes that you've built a market of a specific brand of beer in Florida, to where Florida's very wishy-washy in terms of the new styles and what everyone's kind of buying into. But you've developed a brand and a brewery that's a specific style. You're not really going to drift away from that, and St. Somewhere is statewide, well known.
Yeah.
So that says something about your tinkering, your brewing style, your execution, your traditionalists. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's worked so far.
So at some point you transitioned from home brewing into owning and operating a brewery. So I know this is your technical second location. Your first location was kind of off an industrial park here. Anybody knows the Tarpon Springs, kind of out by the Anclote area. So talk to us about that transition and kind of how you got into wanting to start a brewery and actually doing it, and the transition over here to the new location.
I worked all my life in retail and just hated it. Retail's, you get stuck in it, and it doesn't matter where you are in the management chain. You try to break out and get into outside sales of something, and they look at, you worked in retail. All of a sudden, you're reduced to a cashier.
Yeah.
Right.
You could have been, VP of a chain of stores. Now you're retail's retail.
It's still like that.
Yeah. So came to a crossroads where I was working in a store that was closing, and basically I could have moved or taken a severance package. So I'd been with the company forever, and I was talking with Ann. I'm like, what am I going to do?
Right.
I was not young. I was in my mid 40s at that point. So we started looking at maybe partnering with my dad and opening a like a Quiznos franchise or something like that.
Thank God you did. No Quiznos anymore. They were hot for a minute. But.
Yeah.
Good business decision.
We went to a couple of seminars for Subway, and then it's like, nah.
Yeah, fit, yeah.
It's still a lot of work, and there's not a lot of money to be made there.
Yeah.
You would think owning a franchise from those. I know a couple of guys who do, and some of them can be successful, and they own 13, 14, 15 of them in an area.
Yeah, well, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
You can't do it with one.
Well, yeah, it's just a little bit from this, a little bit from this, and eventually you can make a nice little nest egg.
And it never dawned on me to open a brewery, because it was such a... There were no breweries. There was Tampa Bay Brewing Company, and there was Dunedin Brewing.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. And they had already been around 10 years. So it's, it's not like now, hey, let's open a brewery.
Right.
So I still, trying to figure this out. I did have the idea, hey, I want to open a brewery, but I don't think it's going to work. So I approached 5 or 6 friends of mine that were in and around the brewing industry or homebrew, club people, and said, hey, let's open like a co-op brewery. Everybody owns 15%, 20%. We all get at least 2 days off a week.
Yeah.
We split everything. You know, you work one of your days off. You know, it'll work.
Right.
And nobody liked that idea. They didn't think it was going to work.
Yeah.
Like, you can't open a brewery.
Yeah.
You know, that's nuts.
Yeah.
So, you know, one guy agreed, Jeff Gladish. Hey, Jeff, if you're out there.
Subject.
Thanks for that. So, time went on, not a lot of time, a few months, and, you know, Ann and I sat down and we're like, fuck this. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
And amazingly, she's like, yeah, I think we should. Let's try it.
Yeah.
So, in 2006, we incorporated and opened St. Silver Brewing Company.
So why Tarpon Springs? I think you're from a little east of here, right? Like
Yeah, we live in Odessa.
Odessa, close enough.
I always say I need to come up with a more romantic story on how we ended up in Tarpon Springs. But if you think back, 2006 was the absolute peak of the housing market.
Yeah.
You know, before the crash,
Yeah.
a couple years later. So every place we were looking, because we knew to make it work, we had to have a place with cheap rent in an industrial spot. You know, that would accommodate what we're doing. There were no vacancies because they were all taken up by cabinet makers, plumbers, you know, people related to the building industry. No vacancies anywhere. So ended up in Tarpon somehow. I kept expanding the scope of how far I wanted to drive.
Where were you initially targeting? If you had your ideal spot, it would have been.
I didn't want to go south like into Tampa because that just didn't, you know, brewed in Tampa, which, you know, now it's no big deal.
Yeah.
But it just didn't sound, you know, it's like, brewed in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Which, you know, works for Great Lakes, but.
Sheboygan's greatest brewery.
You know, I really wanted to stay, you know, like in Pasco County or, you know, Odessa, it just didn't work out.
Right.
So, looking around here, was having lunch with my dad at the Tarpon Diner, and, you know, heard somebody talking about they're building this new industrial space, you know, a couple miles from there. So we asked them about it, went and looked, brand new building, and we took, you know, looked at the end unit, went and picked up Ann, looked at it, signed the lease, and that was it.
Nice. Imagine if you hadn't had breakfast that day, you might not have known about it. You know, that path would have
It
diverged a little bit.
might have
somewhere.
ended up in like Wikiwachi.
Yeah, I love those type of stories. Though. That's kind of like getting out of bed on the right foot. You know, did you get out on the left side or the right side? And that dictates the rest of your day, like where you got out of bed at.
Yeah.
You know, small things like that.
That's the path of destiny, really, in a weird way.
So let's fast forward. Then I think it was 2016 last year, right? When you guys moved into the new location that we're at today.
Right. We really wanted a tasting room,
Yeah.
which was, you know, wasn't feasible where we were. And I mean, it took us a year really to find where we are. We looked everywhere. We knew we wanted to stay in Tarpon because we had become identified with Tarpon Springs,
Sure.
and vice versa. And I fell in love with Tarpon. It's a really cool spot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's the way Key West was 30 years ago. You know, cool dive bars, good restaurants, you're on the water, quirky, weird people.
It's got a small town feel. It's not like super small. Like, you know, we've got more than one traffic light. Maybe we got three, maybe. But you know, it's still got a nice little kind of small town vibe and, you know, nice community.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're here long enough, everybody knows everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
get that
everybody's
vibe too.
business.
Yeah.
It's
Especially downtown.
Tarpon's cool.
Yeah.
So you have floor drains now. You know, that's an amenity that was not afforded at the last spot.
Yes.
An industrial complex. It wasn't necessarily plumbed for brewing.
Yeah, and the landlord didn't want floor drains, so that there was a lot of mopping and pumping. This floor drains alone cut about 2 hours out of my brew day.
Man, that's
Cool.
anytime you can cut 2 hours out of the day, it's worth the investment. I don't care if it's $1 million. Get that 2 hours back every day. And,
Oh yeah.
you know, especially at the end of the day when you're just wanting to be done. You're like, I'll clean that tomorrow.
So we're still very low tech, extremely low tech, gas fired kettle. The mash tun and the kettle are both standalone. Nothing's hard plumbed. The tanks behind us, which I'm proud to say we pioneered the use of red wine tanks in the brewing industry.
Yeah.
Now they're, if you want to brew a saison,
People
you get red wine tanks.
And then the difference for those who might not know at home is like, generally they have more of a conical shape in brewing, so you can kind of get the yeast off the trube and everything and get that out once it's done brewing. In this case, it's a flat bottom here. They don't have the luxury of being able to pull out just that part of it.
Right. But the advantage is the flat bottom. It can work both ways. Between the flat bottom and the straight sides and the open top, they're set up perfectly. I mean, you get the convection and the fermentation activity that you get in these far surpasses anything you can get in a conical, because the yeast, gets just jammed and compacted down into the cone. We're here, well, for one, you have the open top, which we open ferment everything. You can look in there and it boils. You can just see it churning and turning over.
Yeah. So something I'm glad you touched on was the open top fermentation, was something I wanted to talk about. Most of the time in brewing, that scares the crap out of people. That's opening it up for anything to come in there, but that's kind of part of the St. Somewhere charm. So talk a little about that to our viewers, and just that process and kind of what the benefits are. How do you manage infection and stuff with that open tops? Again, I imagine the brewing scale, if it doesn't come out right, you got to dump it. That's a lot of money going down the drain.
Yeah. Actually, I had to dump one yesterday. It still happens. We do have our house strain, which is basically the DuPont strain at its heart, and it's been built up, and it's had wild yeast added to it just from generations. So that's the dominant strain, and then the open fermentation allows whatever else is in the air to act on it. Since we have a fermentation going from our house strain, it keeps down a lot of the the really noxious bugs.
So would you say you start, close, and open kind of towards the end, or is it open the entire time? Or?
Open at the beginning and close as soon as the Kreuzen drops. We'll put the lid on. So after about 5 days.
Okay.
And even then, the lids are just sitting on top. There's nothing closed or
you're not sealing it.
Yeah, they're just you can still pull them up, look in there, and
Right.
So I'm sure we'll get to it in part of the tastings. You can talk us through it, but at a high level, what does that bring into the beers that makes them unique? Is it really the Tarpon flora? Is it just
That Tarpon air.
the pollen, or
Yeah.
is it really?
I started doing that because I wasn't happy with the dryness of the beers I was making. I wanted bone dry, like a DuPont, the way DuPont used to be in the green bottle, and couldn't figure a way around that other than in the original days there was hardly any liquid yeast, so we're dumping Nottingham in there, which will ferment water.
Yeah.
Right.
Just not getting the character. So I figured, well, they open ferment all over the world. Let's try it.
Yeah.
It's really a crapshoot in Florida because there's such a giant volume of mold in the air all the time.
Yeah.
People.
It's hot and sticky here. So
Yeah. People like to think, only when you see mold on the wall is, no, you're breathing it now. It's just pervasive. So I was a little hesitant to monkey around with it, but when I finally did, on a 5 and 10 gallon batch scale, I got the results I wanted. So that's where we went.
When you say dry, are you getting down to 0, or are you 2?
Oh yeah, no, 0.
You're going all the way down.
Oh yeah,
No sugar.
Bone dry.
Yeah, bone dry. Which kind of leads me back to these fermenters. I bought these originally. When we first opened, I had a 15 barrel dish bottom that was basically it was like a dairy tank on its end that was converted, that I bought with the brew house. And then I bought 2 7-barrel red wine fermenters, and I bought those just because they were cheap. there were maybe 3 manufacturers making fermenters in those days. And a 7-barrel conical fermenter was $8,000.
Ooh, yeah.
7-barrel red wine fermenter was $2,200. So I'm looking at them online, and I'm like, I can brew those.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it's closed.
So,
It'll ferment, yeah.
That's how that happened. It was, it's just out of me being cheap.
Yeah. I mean, in theory, you could brew in a toilet, it'll work.
And then, after using them, came to find out, the actual benefits of using them, and stepped them up to the 18 barrels.
Yeah. How much vitriol did you get from the purists at the time? Was saying, "Oh, you can't ferment in the wine barrels. What are you doing over there? Your beer's never gonna turn out." I imagine
You're
some of
crazy,
that.
Bob.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Because also at the beginning, I didn't have a glycol chiller. I mean, it was just doing ambient, Florida temperature, which.
How was it getting in the summer? 102.
Yeah. Inside when it was closed, it got hot, especially on brew days. In the corner where the brewery or where the brew house was, it would get 102, 103 on a brew day, and there was really no ventilation. There was one garage door in the front, and that was it. Eventually had an exhaust fan cut right above the kettle to exhaust everything out.
Yeah.
Then I did buy a glycol chiller, and I bought the largest portable one I could get, which was 7 ton, and couldn't put it outside. His landlord again didn't want the thing out front.
Yeah.
No way in hell I'm putting it in the back of the building because it would have been just shredded and gone.
Yeah.
So the option was, well, you got to keep it inside. So between summer and the glycol chiller running inside a 1,200 square foot space, it got really hot in there.
Yeah.
So my electric bills were, $400 just to run the damn glycol chiller.
Oh.
My electric bills here are a third of that. In a bigger spot. I'm brewing, a lot more active here than in the other one.
Yeah.
So I had to leave the front door cracked a little bit, leave the exhaust fan on all day, just to keep it up.
Yeah.
So you touched on there about production. So how productive are you these days out of this space here?
We'll do. We're still tiny by any stretch of the imagination. About 750 barrels.
So nothing to sneeze at. That's a good amount, and
Yeah.
you are fairly widely distributed, from what I understand. I mean, you're all over the place.
Yeah, we're 40 some odd states and about 5 countries.
Very interesting.
Really?
Which is kind of cool. Yeah,
Learn something every day.
as far away as Iceland. Yeah, we're on tap in Reykjavik.
Very cool. And that's why you'll see me. I'll take some shots. But you got the plastic fermenters, I think at this point.
Yeah.
Or the kegs, plastic kegs. So I don't think you expect to get these back when you're sending them to Iceland.
No, not at all.
There's gonna be return trips. Like, shipping's gonna be as much as just keep this one over here. So last thing I want to touch on before we start tasting some beers is the actual tap room itself. So we have moved to a new location, and in the back is the brew house where we are today. But up front, right on the main road on Tarpon Avenue, is the actual tap room. Now, is that
Right.
the brasserie part, or the
Yeah.
So if you can explain kind of the thoughts there, because it is pretty cool. I know there's some cool history involved with Pinellas County and the Bellevue Biltmore, and so again, just talk us through like the concept of like the super kind of French style brewery.
We wanted to. Anybody familiar with our labels? They're old Florida looking,
Always love that.
and they're straight out of the old Florida archives from 1910 to 1930. So we wanted the tasting room to reflect that same period of time. The Art Deco to Art Nouveau period. So really had a hard time finding the space for the tasting room and the brewery. Fortunately, we looked at the building we're in, and it has, which you can't see it, but there's some space in the front. There's like a bedroom and a couple. It just wasn't feasible for what we wanted to do. So we're like, no, we can have the brewery here. The front could be the tasting room, but it's it's like 6-foot ceilings and it just wasn't great. So we kind of wrote this building off. Then the building where the tasting room is came on the market. So I'm looking at that and thinking, well, we could build on a brewery to the back, but then we'd have, no space, no parking in the back. Still had to renovate the building. Wasn't, we're really 100% sold on it.
Yeah.
And
It's old. It's a 1900s building. It's
Yeah,
got a lot of
well,
work and
1912.
wiring. And,
Yeah.
And these were like the 100th and 101st buildings we looked at.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at it with the owner and telling him, what's going on. The guy's like, why don't you buy both of them? That one's owned by the city. They'll probably give it away. So I'm like, I can't afford both of them.
Yeah.
Right.
So we talked to the city about this building, and they did practically give it away. I mean, they had so many grants and things, and then at the end, like I said, they cut us an extra deal for the parking lot. So that this, except for the construction, this building cost us next to nothing. So, and it worked out perfect.
Yeah, it's awesome.
In Florida, legally, your tasting room and brewery can be divided by, the law states, no more than one street or highway. We're divided by an alley.
Yeah.
And the inside we try to reflect, old Florida. We salvaged a lot of things from around old Florida.
Yeah.
The bar itself and the light fixtures above the bar are salvaged from the Bellevue Biltmore.
I love that. And that's like one of Florida's oldest hotels. Like, I mean, during
Yeah.
the boom of Florida construction, that was where the to-do people would go and stay.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
Very
you
cool.
got a piece of that in your brewery now.
Yeah, it broke my heart that they, tearing the thing down.
Yeah.
It suffered the same fate as everything else does in Florida. It happened to be in eye shot of the water, so of course you got to tear it down and build condos.
Yeah. And they almost saved it. I think there was a committee that had been holding on to it for a while, and I think eventually, the money was probably just too great. And they're like,
Yeah,
we don't want to deal with it. It's old. It's probably need a lot of work. And
yeah. They kept the small portion of it, like the front, like reception area and a little bit of the ballroom. So they kept about a 5,000 square foot building part, and that's still on the grounds.
well, there's a little something there.
Yeah.
So I know that there's some potential for rooms upstairs. I know you're kind of still working through the city to get some of those in action, maybe. But
Yeah.
that's kind of the old French style, right? Is that you would have kind of the brewery or tap room downstairs,
Yeah.
and you have guest rooms upstairs.
It's common all over Europe. In England, it's
Everywhere.
there are no pubs without rooms upstairs.
Yeah.
That's just the deal.
Yeah, that
So-
makes sense to me, right? Have a couple
Yeah.
pints and hey,
Yeah.
take a nap or
Yeah, we can sleep, if somebody wants to rent the whole upstairs, we can sleep 8. But we have 2 separate bedrooms that sleep 2 each. And then, we got a fold-out couch and roll-away beds and
The whole works.
Yeah.
shared kitchen, shared bathroom upstairs. And,
it's got a kitchen, dining room, living room, bathroom, and bedrooms.
It's a whole apartment up there.
Yeah.
And how great would that be for like collaborations, right? You have people flying in to do collabs, they have a place
Yeah.
to practice, right? They
Yeah.
don't have to worry about it. So
Yeah,
that's
that
pretty
was-
attractive.
That was part of the deal.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, see these glasses in front of us, like to get a taste. We'll go ahead and
Yes.
cut real quick, get a pour, and I'll
Okay.
come right back. All right, so Bob's been gracious enough to pour a beer for us here. Bob, what do we have?
This is Anne, which is named for our wife Anne, and it is brewed with elderflowers. Elderflowers grow all over the place. I mean, you've seen them, you've probably cut them down all along the roadside. Anytime there's like dormant construction, they're one of the first things that comes up. It's to me, it's kind of a old aroma. It smells like your grandmother's house. That a little musty, like old perfume.
It does smell like grandma's.
Powder, the cedar paneling. That's what I love about it. It's just got that aroma like nothing else in the world, and that's what elderflowers smell like.
Bob's sitting on tap like, it's smelling like grandma's house. Like, yes, he gets it. He gets it. So if you can't just talk us through the beer and the yeast, so your yeast is pretty potent from what I understand. I know there was a rumor and a story out there that you inoculate Cigar City's brewery for a little while. I don't know how true that is.
Yeah, that's true.
So this is pretty potent yeast. So kind of what's your yeast going to put off? What are we going to get out of this in the yeast wise?
Some pepperiness. This one has actually a fairly clean profile. You know, you're not going to get much sourness or any of that.
So it just really dries it out.
Yeah, it's still bone dry. I mean, this beer went down to 0. With that said, you still get lace and head retention, all that stuff you get out of a bigger beer. It's Pilsner malt. We use all Dingmans, all Belgian malt, just because
That's what you've done.
Belgian beer, Belgian malt. And there is a difference. I mean, the continental malts are they just have different character than
I agree. Anytime I do Belgian or German, like I'd rather be specific, and that be the last thing I want to worry about is whether I use the right malt or not. Like, just go with the Learman or Castle, whatever I can get a hold of. Like Belgian pills or German pills are like absolute must.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, cheers, thank you, Bob.
Well, cheers.
I skipped ahead.
He's already.
Yeah. I definitely get the pepperiness.
Yeah. And I like that it is very dry, but it still isn't like so dry that you don't get any kind of malt.
Right.
Complexity out of it.
I like the floral notes. The elderflower comes through. It's there. It's not overwhelming, but it's not underwhelming. It's a perfect amount.
That's interesting. And the ABV on this one, 5%. So I was going to say, it's very, very session-like. I hate to call your beer session beer, but I mean, for Florida, it's hot. This is a great kind of beach beer or hot beer. I mean, mow the lawn and drink one of these.
Yeah, and that's by design. I mean, I want our beers to be consumed, not tasted, let's say.
Right, yeah, that makes sense.
This is a beer to drink in, 12, 16-ounce glassware, not, a 2-ounce sample.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Where'd you come up with the idea for the elderflowers? Just you saw them and said, "Hey, let's throw them in," or?
Yeah, well, Ann is a Florida master naturalist, not a naturist. Those are the naked people. So
That's
she's,
right there, okay.
over the years, we've been married 33 years, long time. She's, indoctrinated me into the ways of, being out in the woods and birds and all that stuff.
Nature. Be one with nature.
Yeah. So that, that's a tip of the hat to all of that.
Yeah. Florida's very swampy, but it's not all swampy. I mean, there are some beautiful
Oh
parts
yeah.
of it.
Oh yeah.
Very cool. Well, awesome. We'll go ahead and I think finish this one up. Then we'll move on to the next one. We're going to cut one more time.
definitely.
We'll be right back. All right, so we're back, and Bob's poured us yet another one of his beers. This time we have Oliver, which is a Grisette farmhouse ale. Can you explain what is a Grisette? I think it's a style that a lot of people are not familiar with.
It's a, let's say, a spin-off of a saison. It's a farmhouse ale that died years and years ago, 60, 80 years ago. So there's nobody alive that really knows what they tasted like. There's really no surviving recipes.
Interesting.
So the Grisette revival is basically coming off of, hearsay and innuendo.
Mm-hmm.
But what people figured out is it's basically a farmhouse ale or a saison with more of a wheat presence. So it's, you brew with more wheat, malted wheat, unmalted wheat. It's let's say it's like a Belgian wit, but in the saison family.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So what's the backstory on Oliver here? See the nice little kitty cat on the label?
Yeah, that's our cat Oliver. Oliver's pretty good character. He's Grisette. Grisette can mean a number of things, but it basically has gray in the root meaning. Oliver's like 3 different shades of gray. He's a 3-legged cat that we adopted basically because nobody wanted him after an adoption fair because he had 3 legs.
Oh.
So that's
Kind of a sad story.
Yeah, Bob, the rest, yeah.
but he's a cool cat. He's he has a very assertive personality. Let's say.
Cool. And on the brewing side, is this still using your house strain? Is this the same yeast, or is it you pick it
Yeah,
from the grocery area?
it's lower ABV. It's 4.5%. Open fermented a little longer to just get a little more rustic, a little tartness.
All right, let's get on into it. Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
very similar. Definitely a little more tart, but not so tart that it's getting into that Berliners we're talking about off camera. That super sour where it's like, oh god.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like that kind of. It gives it that crispness, that little.
Yeah,
tartiness.
I like this a lot.
Good.
I had a grisette a couple months ago. Did not like it. Kind of reluctant when we were talking about. I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I'm gonna like it. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's not a well-defined style. Like,
Right.
oh yeah, let me taste this. Oh yeah, it's a grisette. Nobody knows what the hell a grisette is.
Yeah.
This is very good.
And on that point, I think Mike, we were talking about it yesterday before we came up here. And that some of these styles aren't ones we've heard of. So I'll let you ask the question on the business side.
Yeah, I mean, how does having obviously you only brew the beer, but how is it, moving forward and developing the brand? How does that impact introducing people to these new styles? And this is something that they're not familiar with. Is that harder for you than say maybe other breweries, just because you're such a niche traditionalist brewery?
Yes. Yeah, in a nutshell, yes.
Yeah.
Which explains why we are so widely distributed.
Uh-huh.
Again, going back to 2006 when we first hit the market, there were no brewers.
Sure.
Tampa Bay Brewing Company did not distribute; they were just a brew pub. Dunedin distributed minimally. I think they had stopped doing bottles, and they were just doing. I think they're like the Christmas beer in a bottle. The rest of it was just draft. So I thought, hell, we'll march in, take over the Florida market. It'll be awesome. We sold maybe 40 cases over the entire state the first 2 months, which was nothing.
Yeah.
Got all these bills to pay. We're like, yeah, we're going to kill it. Gonna make $1 million. And, it's like, oh, crap. We're dying here.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure what to do. And then I got a call from a guy who owns a distributorship in Pennsylvania, Bella Vista. And it was a Greek family that owned Bella Vista. And he picked us up because he thought it would be funny to have a beer from Tarpon Springs, because they come down here, during the winter.
Yeah.
And, hey, it's Tarpon Springs. So they picked us up, and we did really well for them. And then we were picked up by Union Distributing, which was a huge coup, because they cover all of New York proper, all 5 boroughs. They're a huge distributor there. Did extremely well in New York. And at that point, we're selling like nothing in Florida, even though we're trying. And Pennsylvania and New York, we're sending them, we can't
That's
make
most
beer
of
for
the
them.
business, yeah.
Then from there, we signed on with Shelton Brothers. We were the second U.S. brewery on with Shelton Brothers at that time. It was Jolly Pumpkin and then St. Summer.
Yeah. Sheldon does a lot of importing too, right? A lot of.
Yeah, they're
Oh, yeah.
they're an importer, but they feed us into their
Oh,
distribution network.
International,
But,
yeah.
they import everything good. Cantillon, Grey Fontaine, McKellar, Struce, you name a Belgian or German, even Australian beer that's awesome. It's a Shelton product.
Nice.
okay.
So we're in extremely good company, and that opened a lot of doors for us, and got us exported to different countries. And thank God, because now, if we open now, it would probably be a little different. But Florida just couldn't support us at all.
Yeah.
We were just such a weird niche.
I think Florida's still very young in the craft scene too, even though I think we are
Yeah.
getting a lot of new breweries, but I think like the outside of the craft beer nerds, the 10% of like the hardcores,
Yeah.
it's not really a craft.
It's still a young and fickle demographic.
Yeah, and that goes back to the container size law. I fully believe, because there were no beer choices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though it's been 17 years, but that put us that many years behind the rest of the country.
Yeah.
And it's something to say, like, these beers have all been awesome, and obviously the Oliver's my favorite of the two, but you go to a shelf in any Florida craft beer store, and you see a Saint somewhere, then you see a whatever IPA or a porter, or most people will side with the stout, the IPA, and not try, say, somewhere, even though the beer would be better, I would assume, than a regular Joe Schmo IPA or porter. So that has to, I imagine, from a business point, be more stressful, more aggravating in a sense, because like your beers are good, like they're fantastic, and it's often overlooked because you see IPA on the label, and people are just like, "What's the percent? I don't know what that is. I'm not going to spend $15 on a bomber when I know what an IPA is going to taste like."
Yeah. And there's, and it's not just us. I mean, there's some really good breweries out in the country that they suffer from, hometown, lack of respect because, it's the local brewery. We don't care about them.
Yeah.
And that, that we suffer from that a little bit, I think, because we did collaboration with Jester King. That was a phenomenal beer.
Oh, I imagine.
We did that 2 years ago. It's still sitting on the shelf around here.
Yeah.
We did another collaboration, fraternity. I call it the Farmhouse from Hell. But it was a 4-way collaboration with 3 of the world's best, most highly respected saison breweries: De La Seine, Thierry, and Blagy. I mean, that should be just a whale.
Yeah, your $35 bomber.
Yeah, and it's on the shelf for $10, $12.
And no one, and it was crazy is no one's buying it at that price.
Yeah.
But people like me sometimes will spend $50 on a maple pecan, almond, chocolate lactose stout.
Yeah. It's very interesting, and again, I always commend you for sticking to your guns. I know when you come to the tap room, you're not going to find an IPA. I think you had an IPA at one time, I think. I mean, it might have been
We've got
Belgium.
the Celebration on now just because I love
Yeah.
Celebration's got a place in my heart.
Yeah.
But when you come to St. Somewhere, you're going to get like the very traditional Belgian-style farmhouse ales and some great guest taps in that style, and a little bit of Belgian. You've had some singles, doubles, wits, and stuff like that. But we're not going to come get double IPAs out here. We're not going to get triple IPAs.
No, we stay and we've had some pretty outstanding drafts on. We had
a lot of Cantillon stuff's come through. I know you're tapping your buddies Shelton, getting some special stuff from time to time.
Let's talk after the show about some Cantillon.
Very cool.
Well, we had my friends from Jester King sent us, from what I can figure, and I think it's true, the only keg of atrial rubicite ever to leave their brewery we had on tap here.
Nice.
We introduced Cuvée de Jonquils, which is one of the best beer de gardes in the world. On draft, we were the only place to have it, probably in the country at the beginning. Now it's out there a little bit.
Yeah. But it's always worth a visit, because you always find some little special nugget here. And again, it's not going to be that pastry style. It's not going to be the big crazy double IPA, but you're always going to find something very unique and kind of special when you come out here. Which ones do you have, or would you say your flagship beers?
Saison Athene, which is definitely our flagship. That's the beer that put us on the map. That's brewed with chamomile, rosemary, little black pepper. The others, which I haven't brewed in a while, are Lectio Divina, which is kind of a hybrid between a Belgian double and a saison.
Super dry.
Yeah,
dry.
it's 8%. It's higher ABV, but very dry and it's confusing. I mean, that's probably our most loved beer out in the world. That or Pays de Soleil, Land of Sunshine. Pays de Soleil is brewed with palmetto berries and hibiscus, whole hibiscus flowers.
Sign me up for that one.
Yeah. Please tell me you're bringing back that sour lager you did.
Probably not.
Oh, no. I mean, I gotta get the rest of it or something, because that was like such a fantastic beer. I kicked myself because we came back like a couple weeks later.
I got bottles of
and it was
that in the
gone.
tasting room.
Ooh.
All right, well, we'll wrap up here soon. All right, Bob, thank you so much for your hospitality and again for everything you
Thanks
do.
for coming,
Again,
guys.
I like, again, that you stick to your guns, you know what you like, and you know what you want to put out there. And, again, I always commend that and appreciate that. And always appreciate what you've done for the community. So, you're a little more old school. You've kind of been around a long time. And
Yeah, I tend to get a
help
little
shape.
preachy and a little bitchy, but
Hey, man. But,
Someone's gotta do it.
You've been great to the community and what you've done and given and knowledge and sharing and helping. So that I commend you and always thank you for that. And you've always been a very stand-up guy and cool. I know we've done a couple like quick Facebook things. It's finally great to finally get a chance to come down and do an official filming, and we'll get a nice episode for you.
very good.
Yeah.
Mike, anything in closing?
Yeah, man. You got a new fan. I like to hear
good.
that.
Cheers.
So, cheers to that. And,
There's more?
Yeah,
I'll get
get
it.
down. All right, Bob, in closing, is there anything you want to tell the Beer Chaser audience?
No, keep up the good work. Support Florida craft beer and come on out to St. Somewhere.
Absolutely, check it out. All right, I'm Preston. Mike, it's Bob. It's Beer Chasers. We'll see you later.
Beer is good, beer is good, beer is good, and stop. Beer is good, beer is good, beer is good. Let's go drink some beer.